One thing that Jason Miller talks about when we did our IT committee research roadshow was the blogging food groups. And one of those important food groups towards the end of the week is Tabasco. Gotta be a little spicy, gotta kind of cause a fight, bring two diverse opinions together and let them duke it out, and through that create kind of knowledge, content sharing, and ultimately what Sal talked about this morning, which is to really challenge the norm. So I get to be the Tabasco today, which I like. Very last session. Let's end on a little bit of a spicy note here, because this is a little bit controversial. When you think about it, it's not all about you, is one of the major themes that came up in IT committee research. And I like to set the stage in a very simple analogy that we can all relate to. You're at a party. You're sitting on the couch. You're next to that guy who's doing what? Talking about themselves non-stop. It's every single point is me, me, me. Oh, I'm awesome. Here's my story. Here's my story. That's great. Thanks for your opinion, but let me get back to me a little bit. And how much does that piss us off? How much does that really turn you off from the conversation? You have the woman on the left here who's like, I'm loving this, right? I can roll my eyes, get up, walk away. Guy on the inside, he's screwed. He's there. Either you have more kind of more strength than I do to get up and walk away from the person, or you're just going to sit there and take the, oh yeah, that's a great story. I really love it. Like that 12th story about you was awesome. What's number 13? Let's get to that one. Here's the problem. All too often, we as brands are that guy on the right. We're talking about ourselves entirely too much. We are not talking on the agenda of the folks that we're ultimately trying to convince to buy from us. We're not being value-based. And there's a huge trickle-down factor that I actually want to talk through on this as kind of part of the spiciness. Mickey Mouse, he's awesome. Absolutely love Mickey Mouse. Had the privilege last New Year's Eve to go with my wife and her sister and their family to Disney World. That's where I want to see Mickey Mouse. But how many of you guys see Mickey Mouse showing up in your lead gen forms? How many times have you gotten fake information? When you look at it, and we did within our IT community research, almost 60% of the time, 59% of the IT committee said, I give fake information so that I can get the insights I want, but I'm not ready to talk to somebody yet. And just on its core, that kind of gives you tremors, right? You think about it, wow, okay, I put all this time and attention into what John and what Chad and Jamie were just talking about to build the right content, to get out there and distribute. And this is part of the value of marketing: capture the lead, help build the funnel, help close more deals, help us hit our revenue projections so that Wall Street or our board or our internal stockholders are happy. This causes a massive effect. So let me walk you through a little bit. What is this trickle effect that we've seen? And by the way, I am a former tech marketer, so I have felt this pain. I have actually tracked this within my own efforts, and it's something that we constantly try to improve, but it is still appalling to look at how much waste happened within this process. And knowing what I know now and the platforms that exist now, I would go about doing it differently if I were back client side. So let me walk you through this and then share a couple of very simple things to ponder as you put together your Q4 strategy, as you put together your 2015. This is our universe. It's huge. It's expansive. Think about this as your target audience. You have millions and millions of people. Based on our research, there's over 10 million people that drive the IT buying committee. Okay. Now, how many of those folks are actually engaging with your brand? It's a fraction. So you've got this massive universe of people that you're trying to engage with. You have a subset of that is engaging with you. Now, of those that engage with you, based on every research that we have, based on all the data you have within your own websites, we saw 15% will immediately leave the website that you've just directed them to. So you're spending potentially huge amount of dollars to get in front of people and to get them where you want them. 15% right off the bat will walk away. So you have your huge universe, it's gotten smaller, now it's contracted yet again. Of that 85% who stay there, roughly 5% will complete the action that you want, and that's fill out a lead form. So you've now taken this huge universe and shrunk it way down to what we have right here. But of that 5%, 59% just gave you fake information. So your universe just shrunk again. Finally, you got great leads. You're passing them to sales. But how many is sales actually calling? So what just happened? In your great universe, we just got Pluto to reply to us. And they're not even a planet anymore, people. That's not a good outcome. We want something more than this, right? We want to be able to get people to care about us, to engage with us. And ultimately, the premise that we have, when we think about kind of doing that mindset intervention of, are we going about this in the right way that's optimized for them being our clients, our prospective clients, to get value from our points of view, from our experts that we're empowering to get out there and share their opinions? Are we driving that conversation and helping them along the way to create a more efficient process for ourselves? And the one big thing that came out of the research for us that we've been spending a lot of time trying to tackle with clients like yourselves isn't easy. But at the end of the day, branding and lead gen, which are kind of two of the silos that Jason had talked about earlier, we need to bring them together. Because from a metrics perspective, they complement each other exceptionally well. From a content strategy perspective, they complement or should complement each other exceptionally well. And so these two teams coming together in a unified approach to educating the marketplace, to engaging with your clients, your prospective clients, and then to ultimately getting to people who are ready to talk to you and putting forms in front of them on more so their terms is going to lead to a more efficient process for us. So let's talk about that end result we're looking for, that gating. Based on our data, again, this is North America, which will differ a little bit from the global point of view that you have in the slides in front of you. We have 81% less likely to consider a vendor who gates everything. And why is that? Very, very intuitive. I don't know anything about you. I don't know your point of view because you're stopping me from learning about you. You're stopping me from understanding how you think about this technology, how you've built your products to overcome the challenges that I'm struggling with today. So I've inherently stopped you from knowing me well enough to want to talk to me. Very obvious, but also important to call out. The second piece here is 41% less likely to consider when they engage with a first piece of content that's gated. Now this is a trickier part because you can have an open gating strategy, but how do you make sure that that first piece isn't gated? I think what Jason was talking about within his approach to the turkey slices is a good analogy because what are you ultimately doing? You put a gate in an appropriate place that has content with high enough value that even if it is that first piece, they're willing to give their information. But ideally, you've actually got a much more robust content strategy, and you're using nurturing technology to be able to allow you to get in front of folks with broader thought leadership content first, engage them, see the signal that they're engaging, put them on nurturing paths to start walking them through the education process based on the other content that you've seen other folks like them finding value in, to then get to the point where you earn the opportunity to put that gate in front of them. And there is a magic formula. It's 5 pieces of content. This research is infallible. I know this. It said 5 pieces of content. Obviously, it's not that simple, but the concept is right there for us that you can't expect like a silver bullet. This is the one piece of content. This is going to do it. All we have to do is this one single piece of content. Even when you talk about a big rock content strategy, that is dissected in part because there's a lot of great ideas that are sitting within that big rock piece of content, and not the whole concept may be relevant for everybody at that point in time, but this particular aspect of it, this person's expert opinion on something, this actual piece of the social media engagement strategy, this part makes sense to me. I'm only thinking about paid media, so I'm going to engage with that content, but I'm not going to worry about organic and all the other goodness that's in this piece of content yet. So you need to think very holistically about how we're engaging. And if it is just demand gen content, then we're going to keep having that universe equation play out, which is a lot of folks that we're bombarding with a lot of content that they will rebuff and walk away from. And the folks that do start going into the funnel, do complete the form, we're going to hand bad sales leads across to the sales team, who then's not going to call in the next 5 that they get from us, even if they're solid gold. And so the implications for me as we start getting into the panel is a couple of very simple steps. 1, for your content strategy, are you only promoting and distributing demand gen gated content? If you are, please rethink your strategy. Please reach out to your peers that are in PR and branding who have more thought leadership content that can help round out your strategy. If we do that, they build and fund the content that's thought leadership. We build and fund the content that's demand gen. And I'm not having the onus of building whole stack of content. I'm partnering with the subject matter experts on that particular topic, on that thought leadership, and I'm just bringing my content together with it so that we're both not doubling our budget. We're just being smarter about aligning how we're investing our money. So first and foremost, think about the content strategy, and am I actually talking more about stuff other than just my product? The second piece related to that is, are we only talking about a product level? If you think about the hierarchy, when we look at trending content and we see what folks are engaged with, when we heard from Kevin Scott this morning, what does Kevin care about? Obviously, he cares about the operations of our business and all of the internal infrastructure and software and mobile strategies that we have to empower our employees and to run our platform. But Kevin cares a heck of a lot about other stuff too. He's also a leader within the business. He's also passionate about other things outside of the office. This rounds out what he cares about. And so you use a tool like trending content to say, what else does my core audience, what else does the IT committee care about? What else do senior IT professionals care about? Is there a topic in there that is so important to them that I need to be sharing and talking about it as well, even if it's higher up than just my technology? So hypothetically, if I'm a virtualization software company, if I'm just talking about virtualization, if I'm just talking about my specific product, I'm shrinking my universe. But if I know that folks who care about virtualization, who do that on a day-to-day basis, also care about leadership, also care about entrepreneurship, also care about something else that's going on in the world, and I can merely share that content and use that to build rapport and trust and more of a true relationship where I'm adding value to them, it's going to help me earn that opportunity to get them to fill out a lead form later on. The third big piece is gating strategy. And so we kind of have a couple different schools of thought. There's the one that we clearly just saw that's not great, which is I'm going to gate everything. I'm going to get all my leads. I'm going to send them over to sales. Obviously, that's alienating a lot of people. There's the opposite end of it, which is make it all open content, which is not the ideal outcome for us. We have to help create opportunities for the sales team. We have to show the value that we have within the business, so we need to capture leads. The one really great thing that David Thacker talked about within our product vision is helping empower you guys in the future to learn from what we've learned, and that's use a members first approach. So if we can launch tools that help you to pair together that you've got open content, you have gated content, and what we'd like to help build with you is this middle tier of more of a optional. It's a hand raiser. We create a soft gate for you. So you have gates on the right-hand side of the website, and you have content on the left-hand side. And it's entirely optional, just like SlideShare taught us, where you can skip the little lead form. Hey, do you want to talk to somebody? You can skip that on SlideShare. Within LinkedIn, we'll create the same exact opportunities for us to be able to allow you to drive people to a destination, have content for them to engage with on the right-hand side, or the left-hand side, or the right-hand, however you want to format. And then within that actual content experience, you can put on an autofill. If they're coming from us, it'll be auto-populated. They're still getting all the rich insights, but they have the opportunity to raise their hand and say, I like what you have to say here. I like this opinion. I want to hear more about it. Click a button, give me a call. Same application on platform. Didn't really mention it, but the one-click, which is the on LinkedIn.com version of the same type of autofill technology where you can do a sponsored email reaching out with an exclusive offer around a huge piece of big rock content. And at the bottom of it, you've got the message, the call to action that drives them to the big rock. But at the bottom, it'll just say, do you want to learn more? Yes or no. Simply click yes if you want to be contacted, or you click no if you're not ready for that. So it's 3 really simple techniques to think about as you look at your gating strategy, as your lead generation strategy gets built out for next quarter and 2015. And with that, I'd like to invite Julia up, who joins us from Salesforce. Unfortunately, David is not available now. Come on up. Grab any chair. So I apologize. David, unfortunately, had a personal thing arise. So Julia and I are going to hold down the fort. And I am going to be schizophrenic and speak as a LinkedIn representative. And then I will switch over to my other personality as a former tech marketer to answer any questions as well. So let's start with a couple of our questions that we were talking about leading up to today. And then we'll open it up to the audience. First, I just kind of painted the picture, tried to put a challenge out there for folks to think about it differently. How has Salesforce adapted your content strategy just in the last couple of years?
Sure. So as the past couple sessions have shown, we know that you can't gate everything. So Dave, unfortunately, who can't be here, and team are generating all of this awesome content. And from an organic standpoint, we're amplifying that to people who have elected to follow us, and we know that they want to hear from Salesforce. I'm on the paid side, so what that means is often I'm talking to people where it's their first impression of Salesforce. They haven't elected to hear from us necessarily, and we want to make sure that we're permeating a positive brand affiliation. So we do gate content, but we want to make sure that it's really targeted to an appropriate audience. So Dave will make this awesome content. I'll take a look at it and say, here's my audience. Here's what's resonating well in an organic world, and how can I fine-tunely pick that content and amplify it to my audience who I'm prospecting to. So using things like LinkedIn sponsored updates, I'll take a look at seniority, company size, job function, job title, and say, how can I layer these on and reach that specific audience so that they're willing to fill out that gate? Like you said, the universe is big and it gets really, really small. So the more you can tailor your content that is gated to your right audience, the more it's going to be relevant and resonate with them.
I think the one thing that really stuck with me when we were talking leading up to today was just a little bit more of a science to what content you want to put paid behind, which I think makes sense, right? Like, if we're not actually looking at what's getting engagement naturally, And so we're sending it out to our followers, we're sharing it organically, thanks to a lot of our employees hopefully engaging with it. And then you're taking a lot of those signals and saying, all right, this is the content for this particular audience. It's worth putting a gate on it, which I thought was great. Like, I hope more people are doing that.
Yeah, and I think too, it can go both ways. So Dave might say, here's something that's doing really well on LinkedIn, or here's something that's doing really well to our sales audience or to SMB audience. Give it to me and I'll put it out there. But as long as you're tracking granularly as well from a paid perspective, you can send that feedback back to your organic team. So say, actually, we didn't think this was going to do really well to this specific audience, but data shows it really did, and it's driving leads, it's driving pipeline. You guys should test it on this channel as well, or consider making more ebooks to this audience or along these lines.
I think that's a great process to kind of use the data that both sides are getting to inform that next iteration. To that point, you had shared some pretty cool things you guys are doing around metrics. So inherent in what I've said and the kind of the challenge I put out there of thinking more about what content you're distributing and what you're actually gating. How are you guys changing the way you measure success within your efforts?
Sure. So as a marketing organization, we're getting a lot better at taking a look at how we are influencing opportunities along different stages in the sales cycle by analyzing things like marketing contributed pipeline and marketing touched pipeline. So instead of just taking a look at last touch or first touch, we really want to see where is our top of funnel content hitting these opportunities or moving them further down the sales cycle. So it's awesome for me, especially in things like paid social media, that in the past you haven't necessarily been able to see the influence. With these new success metrics, you can take a look at, well, I know that they read an ebook, they weren't necessarily ready to purchase CRM right away, but it really did touch that opportunity and it's moving it further towards a salesperson or from opportunity to close.
You guys you've kind of blended together the teams well on the organic front and then the paid front. You're thinking more holistically. One of the things David was planning to share today is just how they're opening up more content options. They actually do, related to the earlier panel, have social ambassadors, have guest speakers that create content for them that really round out their points of view and ultimately creates a personality for Salesforce. And this is all organic content that eventually, maybe something that you lock onto and create paid amplification behind. But I thought that was an important point to note, unfortunately, given David couldn't be here, for folks, so you didn't miss the insight of they're not just relying on their own internal experts. They are tapping other people within the industry that share similar opinions, that are considered experts, that could be clients of theirs even, that are talking about this stuff, which I think provides a lot of richness to the content that you guys are putting out there. Yeah. So let me actually open it up. So we got about 5-10 minutes, see what additional questions folks have. We'll give you a second to get a mic over there.
These chairs are so hard to sit in.
I know. It's like, hey, how you guys doing?
Thank you. You mentioned that you're using influence to measure the performance of the content. How do you ensure that you're not double counting, given the basically influence, so many different content are
so there's a lot of different attribution models that you can use, and you should really look to your company and figure out which is the best for you. We look at several different metrics, so we'll still look at last touch and first touch in the mix, but we're also looking at even touch attribution. So both sourced by marketing or not sourced but touched by marketing in the past 90 days. We'll do a look back window, or future 90 days if we sourced it, and we'll take a percentage of whatever the overall opportunity was. I don't think any attribution model is perfect. I'm sure you guys can all agree, but it's nice to be able to see an influence from something like paid social media on a greater opportunity instead of getting no credit for it.
I think it's an interesting insight. Obvious, people don't want to fill out the lead forms, so Mickey Mouse appears. Why? And I guess I could suppose why. They want to be anonymous. They don't want a phone call. It's kind of that Jerry Seinfeld thing where he gets that telemarketer calling him at dinner and he says, hey, I want your number so I can call you at your dinner hour when you're off. So isn't it a simpler way to just let people opt in or out? I don't want to be called. I don't want you to text me. I don't want you to leave me alone. I'm just browsing. You still can nurture them.
Yeah. So I'll kind of, based on the feedback that we had in the research, and just what I've observed as well in the industry for a long time, is probably the two most likely things that we've seen are that they really aren't ready, right? Like, it's just inherent. I'm not ready. I'm literally just trying to understand this concept, and I want to learn more about the concept. What is virtualization? I now want to learn a little bit more about the options just to see the different ways that companies are approaching this technology. So there's natural there. I think the other one is that people just fear. They know what's next, right? If I give up my real information, I know exactly what's going to happen. And you'll see in the report there is a very specific call out of fear. That's a powerful word. So if you know what is going to happen next, you're inherently going to provide fake information. Because, you know what? It's not value. It's me being bombarded with you trying to sell me something, not help me out. And so there's a different kind of paradigm shift that we can create where if this is more about value, if this is at your disposal of, do you want to talk about this more, it starts to remove some of those barriers where I think what is extremely powerful about having autofill and the one click on LinkedIn is just that it puts the power in that person's hands to say, I'm ready to talk. I want to talk. I like your opinions. So that is, yeah, it is. What we've seen is that it's actually kind of skipping, it may not fit all of your BANT criteria for a marketing qualified lead, but in many cases, it's actually creating leads that skip right to sales ready because you can see the demographics of the person that they're a good fit, and they're actually saying, call me.
I mean, I don't have a ton to add. I would just say, test your forms too. If you remove a field, does it make it more or less sales qualified? At Salesforce, we pretty much have just the form. You can fill it out or give fake information, but I would encourage you to test things and see how your audience responds, because you don't want to go to no leads at all.
Agreed.
Julian, this is a question for you. You commented really briefly on something that seems to be ignored by a lot of people. I'm hoping you can expand on it a little bit more. In paid social, oftentimes that's the first touch, and yet when we're creating social media content, so often the teams that are doing that and oftentimes the teams that are reviewing what's being created for paid social have a mindset of, I'm going out to the people who follow my page, who've liked me, who follow me, whatever it might be. And how do you pick the content differently? And how do you present the content differently? And then how do you address that with your organic social team?
Sure. So I think the question is, how are we choosing what is appropriate for paid channel versus organic, and then keep the conversation going? Is that
and as well as how do you handle that relationship, or what is that relationship like with the team responsible for organic social as well, who's often got a different lens?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree that oftentimes the organic team is speaking to people that are a much different audience than the paid side. So a lot of what I do actually never shows up on our organic channels at all. We use things like direct sponsored updates so that you can go to our company page and you won't see it. But if you're in my audience and I'm choosing to target you, then you will see it. So we will take feedback from the organic team of what's resonating well, particularly for an audience, because we know that just because you've elected to follow Salesforce and you're a salesperson, you could still have a good piece of content for the sales audience, even though you're not following Salesforce, for example. And then we'll test it. And I do really, really granular tracking. So I'll append unique drivers, or we call drivers from our CRM system, onto everything so I can see, okay, organic thinks this is doing well. Let's put it on paid and see if that rings true, and then give them the feedback. Additionally, I'll put on lots of different layers of targeting when I'm putting it on paid channels, and then tweak the headline or the body copy or the image so that it really resonates with that audience. So we could have an ebook that's sales tips for improving your sales team's win rates. It could be good content for a business owner, or it could be good content for a VP of sales, and how can I pick out in the headline what the best information is for the VP of sales versus the business owner, and get a lot more traction with one ebook by just kind of using different titles.
Have you used that same kind of lens to figure out what types of content? You mentioned ebooks. Chad talked about long form, more article kind of based stuff. There's video, infographics. So how do you architect that kind of content distribution so you know what types of content you want to put in front of people when?
So typically, I'm gating a lot of things. Unfortunately, I'm the bad guy. And in my experience, people haven't really wanted to fill out a form for something like a video or an infographic as often as they will a white paper or an ebook. So in general, I will probably favor ebooks for promotion rather than those other things. But we'll do things like put money behind driving to a blog. So for example, we'll drive to a blog with an infographic embedded, and we can use that infographic as kind of the teaser to the blog. And once they're there, like Mike was speaking about earlier, then they have the option to elect to fill out a form, because on the blog there's a banner that says, now you know us a little bit, you know our brand, we've just given you a useful piece of content. Do you want to learn more? Watch a demo, capture their information then.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I think a lot of it's just about how much value that piece of content has, and there's inherent form factors that are more for just learning and easy consumption that we shouldn't be gating. I think a lot of those are the entryway of building that relationship and rapport. So if you're gating everything that includes very simple, fun, witty infographics, you're stopping a lot of people from engaging with that infographic and sharing it. But that really rich content that's very, very robust, research-based, demo trial-based stuff, absolutely worth doing. And we've seen across a lot of clients that very meaty content is what they ultimately gate. And then the lighthearted stuff is what they keep open. Any additional questions? So I'll ask one of you, Julia, then quick. What's the one piece of advice that you would give to folks that are starting to look at their gating strategy, that are starting to try to align better with their organic team like you guys have done?
Sure.
To help improve? It's all those small improvements that add up. So what's the one piece of advice?
Piece of advice would be really audience first and client first, and think about what's going to resonate with them, and then test that content. So just because you think it's going to resonate doesn't mean that it will. So track as granularly as you can. I encourage you to even track down to company size if you can, job title, function, as many of the different targeting capabilities you can layer on so that you have rich data to gain insights from. Because a lot of times you have an intuition and the data proves you were wrong.
All right. Any additional questions? We're about at time. Cool. So I will, thinking about that viral question, I closed and I'm putting you on the spot, so I'll start. So I actually spoke at one of Josh's events for their clients, and he asked a really interesting question. What's the one challenge that you would pose to the audience? When you walk out of here, what's the one thing that you should try to change? And there was a really interesting answer two answers. One, the other speaker had said, deliver a message without using PowerPoint. Can you go in and make a pitch without any slides? Because that, and Steve Jobs' narrative was, if you have to put it on a slide, you don't know the concept well enough. So that's one. Can you deliver your message to your clients without PowerPoint slides? The other one that I would pose is that challenge for everybody is, can we go a month of doing content and talking to our audience without talking about ourselves and making it all about them? Can we do that for 1 month and see what kind of a result we get? Any challenger statements that you would want to end on? It can
from
be a shot
paid
contest too if
side.
you want.
I challenge you to not be afraid of spending money. So oftentimes,
I swear to God, I didn't tell her to
this
say
is
that.
for LinkedIn. No, I don't just mean on LinkedIn. I mean, people will give me sometimes a $1,000 budget and ask me, what was it successful? And I will make up an answer, but we all know that that's not enough data to go off of. So, you know, just because it's not doing well at first, continue to put budget so you have some insightful data to go off of. I'm all about data.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You can head down. I'm going to do a quick wrap up. All right. Great graphic, huh? Good way to end. So, we just went through a lot. And I really, really appreciate everybody's time, attention. You know, give this an entire day is a lot. It's something that we take very seriously. Everybody has an event survey sitting near them, or we can get you one. Please give us your feedback. We want the open, the honest, the constructive feedback about what was great, what was bad, what we should change, what topics you want to hear about next. Because this is, while we do have promotional plugs here about LinkedIn, this is about helping all of us collectively build better business results. And so please take the time to fill out that form, share the feedback. But I just want to thank all of you, everybody in the room here. You're clients of ours, and we greatly appreciate the partnership that we have with you. We strive to continue to build better products, as David talked about earlier, that help you live up to what your business is asking of you. And so let's use the next hour or so to enjoy a cocktail, get to know others that are up against the same challenge as you, talk to your LinkedIn representatives that are in the room, and we're just here to get to know each other and answer any questions. But thank you so much, and please enjoy a cocktail in the other room. Thank you.